Hi there. We have a big match coming up. While I'm, like maybe most of you, anxiously waiting for the season to begin over here in Belgium, fortunately we have something to warm our minds, and that is the big match that is coming up on Essential Tennis Channel between Ian, the owner of that channel, and our favorite, everybody's favorite, most exhausting player who goes by the name of Ben. Let's have a look at how that match might evolve, what may be the result of this match based on the statistics that we've been compiling on both of these players. I looked into the matches that Ian has displayed on his channel, comparing the types of winners he makes, the types of errors he makes, and then comparing that to what the opponents typically do on those shots. And then I did the same for Ben. Some of the data will confirm what we already know about Ian and Ben, and some of the data, at least for me, was giving some surprising results that we can also take into account. So let's get down to that. What did I learn about Ian's game? So first of all, his serve. Ian has, across these 4 matches, just to give you an example, he has hit 5 winners, 5 direct points on serve, and he has hit 5 double faults. And those are relatively low numbers, both of them. Just to give you the idea of his opponents, they landed 18 direct points, including many aces, but 14 double points. So compared to that, Ian's serve is not really a weapon, nor is it a liability. Ian's serve is, let's say, neutral. Ian hits many forehand returns into the net, or especially out, much more than you would expect from that shot type if you compare it to the opponent. So the forehand return is a liability in Ian's game. Even worse, Ian does on his third ball forehand. That's very interesting to see. It is a common pattern among players on this level to hit many errors on the third ball forehand because of the intention to make an aggressive shot that is behind it. However, Ian's errors are even way above that. That is really the big liability in Ian's game. Is it due to intention? Is it due to technique? Or because of the slower serve recovery? I cannot really judge that, but the data says that Ian makes much more errors on the third ball forehand than you would expect from a usual game at that level. If we then look at Ian's backhand, his backhand slice, which he has mostly used throughout these matches, is not really a weapon. Of course, he's neutralizing the shots, but he is very consistent at that. And actually, his backhand is, in general, has a better risk-reward tally than the backhands of his opponents. So it's even a comparative strength because it's very reliable. So we know that Ian has been working on his backhand. He has seen a coach to go for a backhand drive to develop that shot, and that is commendable, of course. And if he thinks that his weakness, and if he wants to work on his backhand, that's his prerogative, and it will make him a better player for sure. But the data doesn't really tell us that the backhand is a liability. On the contrary, the forehand is. Ian is a very strong player at the net. He is very good at volleying, but he's especially good at landing good overheads, at converting from the air. In fact, Ian has hit only winners on the overhead. He hasn't missed a single one. Last point that we can derive from the data about Ian's games is somewhat surprising to me, and very interesting, I think, is that when the point develops into a rally, so beyond the 5th shot, Ian's tally goes up. He is on average doing better than his opponents. So Ian has all reasons to keep the shot going, and his better consistency than that of his opponents eventually prevails into the longer rallies. And this kind of paints a picture of Ian as a player, which I think is not very common. It's kind of an unusual profile for a player. Ian is what I would call a grinder with a very strong net game. He has consistent strokes, especially as the point goes on into a rally, but he has a very strong net game. Ben has been working on his serve, as you may know, and it is true, it's not a big weapon. On average, his opponents are making more winners on the serve than Ben is. But on the other hand, Ben is making very few double faults, much less so than his opponents. And so, overall, his serve is actually better on average than his opponents in terms of risk-reward. So, just like Ian with the backhand, if Ben wants to work on his serve, that's his choice, but it's not what the data tells us that Ben should improve. Similar to the serve, his returns and third balls are no weapons. He just brings them back into the game, gets the point going, waiting for the opponent's mistake, or bringing in his weapon, which we'll talk about soon. His opponents, on the other hand, are making way more mistakes on the third ball, and so early in the point, Ben is doing much better than his opponents. Now, as we know, Ben's favorite combo is a drop shot, followed by either a passing shot or a lob. Now let's look at the drop shots first. The drop shot is his risky shot. That's where he takes the risk to then reap the rewards either immediately, because the opponent doesn't get there, or postponed to the next shot where he lands his famous passing shots or lobs. Now, interestingly, when the opponent gets there to the drop shot and lands a counter drop shot, that's where Ben is vulnerable. And I didn't really believe that before I looked into the data. It was actually Ian who saw that maybe drawing Ben to the net with a drop shot could be a very good counter tactic. And that is exactly what the data tells us. Ben is vulnerable to drop shots or counter drop shots. Now, if his drop shot is successful and the opponent gets there and brings it back, and Ben is in a position to play the next shot comfortably, then the big weapon Ben has is the passing shot. The passing shot is really his big strength. Ben has this very special ability to take a player who is at the net as a reference point to land a very precise passing shot down the line or cross court, doesn't really matter. He does that extremely well, much better than I would say even any opponent at this level. The other possible continuation of the drop shot is the lob, and this is more spectacular. This meets the eye, and I was always under the impression that dropping drop shots and lobs were the good combo, but the data tells us that yes, in general, it's a positive risk reward, and the opponent in general makes many mistakes on overheads, but there are many opponents who get these overheads in, and the lobs don't always land in the opponent's court. So overall, the lob is still a weapon, but it's much less a weapon than the passing shot is. The final thing that stood from the data and that I really found interesting, as the point goes on, you would think that Ben's ability to wear down an opponent to be consistent, that this is making rallies in general favorable for him, and they are not. The opponent on average does better on a longer rally than Ben does. Ben really gets all his points either from early mistakes by the opponent or this weapon he has of combining the drop shot with passing shot or lob. That's how Ben makes his points. But longer rallies, where it's all about consistency and technique, probably the opponent's more conventional technique prevails in these longer rallies. That concludes the picture about Ben's game. Now, knowing these two player profiles, what does this tell us about the upcoming match? Ben's weapons are drop shots. First, Ian is very fit. Ian will get there. Then when Ian gets there, he's at the net where he wants to be. So, yeah, Ben is going to try a passing shot or a lob, but Ian is very good at volleying and making overheads. So this matchup of playing styles really is into Ian's favor, I think. It's not all bad, and Ben has definitely some things to work with. First of all, let's concentrate on that particular tactic of drop shot and then passing shot or lob. Ben should go for the passing shot because of two reasons. Ben is doing better himself on average on passing shots than on lobs. On the other hand, Ian is doing better, comparatively speaking, on overheads than on volleys. So these two differences being there, it is clear to me that Ben should first and foremost try the passing shot. He will be more successful with that weapon than with the lob. Ian's weakness is forehand return and the third ball forehand. And to take advantage deliberately of that weakness is not so easy. But there are ways. I think if Ben serves to the forehand or to the middle, enticing Ian to try a somewhat aggressive forehand return, he may elicit some mistakes on that shot. Similarly, when Ian serves, I think Ben will have little difficulty to bring back the serve, and he should try and return again to the middle or to the forehand to try to lure Ian into a mistake on the third ball, which he seems to be naturally prone to. With all that in mind, I'm still going for Ian as the favorite when it comes to matching playing styles. However, there's one final thing, and it's not about tactics or technique, it's about the mental aspect. I really admire Ian for taking the risk to lose against Ben, because it might happen, and he knows this, and he already has said that on his channel. People are saying he's crazy to play Ben because Ian is a YouTuber. His livelihood and reputation hinges on his YouTube channel and maybe on what he does on the channel and how he performs. So I don't think that's really true. I think Ian is a great YouTuber anyhow, a great coach, great explanations about tennis, very entertaining. What he's now building with his friends on his court is just fantastic. He doesn't have to win to Ben, but many people think he does, especially since Ian has told us how to win against Ben. And yeah, now he's putting it to the test, so he better wins, right? And if we look at Ben has nothing to lose. He's driving there. He will enjoy himself. He will be his usual competitive self. That difference may put a weight on Ian, may get him frustrated like all the opponents of Ben do. Like, I should win this match. How is it possible that I'm losing? But then again, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Ian is preparing very well, both in terms of fitness and psychology. He will be a little stressed for sure. There's no way around it, and stress is good. And I think he will be able to convert that stress into a victory. My money is on Ian, but my heart has to be with Ben. So looking forward to the match. Hope to see you there somehow in the virtual space, and very, very curious to know if all this statistic mumbo jumbo even relates to reality at all. So see you there. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed this video as well. And yeah, bye-bye.